So, I've been wanting to speak with you about the programmed masculine, which I've been seeing a lot of, especially in terms of the dating coaches that we've been discussing. And on many levels, they're just reinforcing the programmed masculine. And I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, yeah. It's also what you said, I loved how you just like looked at this one post and said, oh, he's just still fixated on being a man, on making it about being a man. There's no woman in there, even though he spoke a lot about woman's experience. But if you're a deep woman, how he discussed the woman was so surface, even though it seemed really deep. And he's got all these women underneath going, we've been waiting for a man to say this. And and I think it's still like the son getting approval from the mother, but in a different way. So all these women are celebrating what he's saying. And the thing is, he still positioned himself as an expert of her system, which will never, ever bring him to the truth of woman. He's no expert of anyone. And I think deep down, there's no men under these men. There's very few men who comment. And I think deep down, men know that it's just another like elevated kind of bragging post, you know, of the guy who, made it to home run with the woman, with the girl in the class. And they're curious, but they've heard all these stories before in the locker rooms now, and they know it's not all it's cracked up to be. So they're kind of like, yeah, does this guy really know what he's talking about?
And when I reflect more, I actually see, like, I love poetry, for example, and I love really classical poetry. And there's something about when men can describe their love of woman in a very innocent way. And that's how you know that they have loved a woman. And with a lot of these men, it's actually the opposite. It's a how-to manual because they still see women as machines or, um, their posts are just their attitude is just lacking a sort of love, like reverence for the woman. It has a lot of corruption in it because it wants to teach men how to have sex with women when that's not something that's taught really. That comes from loving a woman.
Yeah, exactly. But loving a woman involves admitting that that's a very, like it's a path for the pioneer. And we're not just talking about loving the woman, her body are the spaces that will inform him, transmit to him how to soften the protection and the armor that he's wearing in his own body so that he lets love in. It's not even loving her, it's letting his own feminine course through his system. mean, you don't see these men talk like that. So you know that they don't know what the woman really represents. They managed to have a really good date night with their woman and she's all happy now. And now she's bragging all over social media. Look at my man. I've got a good one. It's less about the individuals and what they get from each other also. It's not about that when a couple come together, like really merge. It's certainly not about making the your same sex feel like an idiot, because that just shows to me how unintegrated the man is. It means that the other parts where he didn't know what he was doing, even though he still doesn't, are just being kind of like bullied and shamed into get your act together.
If he really wanted to help, if the man really wants to help, he would teach other men how to soften or let love flow through their system.
Yes, and to do that, he would have already had to have done years and years of having humbled himself to the process of being with the woman, being with the woman that he chose, the one woman, and constantly. See, I feel that women really, regardless of their bravado these days, because of their social position, they know how to consider the other. Actually, I think, yeah, I think, because you know how I've mentioned to you that I could only speak with this knowledge from doing still point lovemaking, from doing etheric lovemaking. And I have immense respect for a man who can do that with me. And that's the reason why I bring them into my work and why I was going to say exonerate them, because on some level they're doing something that other men have not demonstrated that I have seen for however long that their path deems them to do it.
Mm.
But one thing Tupac and I discussed today very pertinently was that he sees now how a lot of men are connected in with the yoni, especially if they have a partner or a wife, and a lot of energy is being given to them and enveloping them, and especially these online mentors speaking about sexual energy and speaking about how women attract men and things like that. They're there as a solo entity. Meanwhile, they have a partner who is in the background, always transmitting or sharing that energy with them from their yoni, and how that is never being properly honored within the work that they're doing. They act as though the woman needs protection. I mean, what does that tell you about what they think about the women that they're with? It's a total patronization. And this is not from a feminist viewpoint. This is from the lingam and the yoni are equal and they merge together, and both man and woman humble themselves to the process of that merging, which is God, of which they know nothing about.
And what's really interesting is oftentimes it seems like the partners of these men, the women, um, don't really seem to challenge them to grow. It kind of seems like um, it's creating a more stagnated persona for the man. And it kind of seems like the men are choosing women who keep the status quo for them.
Yeah. Say more to me about that. Exactly. I mean, they're invested in it.
Yeah, they're choosing women who keep them. I guess the women see them as this false sense of authority, and then they get to keep their image of a false sense of authority. And I don't know how long. It seems like a lot of them can do this for very long. Because I know if I was doing that, I'd get bored of it very quickly. You know, it just gets boring.
Yeah. And how can you respect your man when his frequency's off online? How can you respect the God in the man? How can you desire his lingam? Well, that's not exactly true, because if he knew his lingam was inside, he would constantly be dying to his persona. They're both constantly dying to themselves in knowing that the lingam and the yoni are joined. And so it's not really how can she desire his lingam to be inside. To desire to have his lingam inside is like a conventional sex idea. When you are esoterically in union with each other, you don't desire or not desire, the lingam's there.
That is a very esoteric idea, actually. Esoteric disclosure about the truth. So you mean that it's always there? Always.
Always there. Always there. The only time it's not there is when you go into your mind and you're not in your body and you lose connection with it.
And what about if you're with somebody else? Like if you're a woman and you meet a man on the street and he's penetrating you, what then? I mean, etherically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if a lingam's inside, how's it going to etherically penetrate you if it's properly inside? I mean, like, I mean, ultimately it's always yours. If you want to like veer it towards someone else, then you better take responsibility for that. But otherwise, I mean, have you ever seen two lingams go into one yoni at once? Right. So
Yeah.
that would like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say to you. You'd have to take one out to put one in. What are you laughing at? That's all. I mean,
No, it's really like a genius thing to say, but it seems so
that,
just Sometimes with this work, I think what I find really esoteric is it's the most obvious truths, and yet we miss it.
Yeah. What's esoteric mean again? Like on a really deep level? I know, like I bandy around the word, and I'm very funny about that. I really think that words should be used if they are known in the body.
Well, I know exoteric means of the outside, of the external, and esoteric means of the internal, is my understanding.
So exoteric is outside and esoteric, right? Yeah, because all I can say is I have known when a man is the lingam that my yoni is encasing. And if the man is devoted to staying in your yoni because he loves you and he loves you because he loves the tangible implications, effects, sensations, enlivenment of being in your yoni, then you're both devoted to having that be the imprint that you live by. You can say to your beautiful man, will you stay in your lingam today? And every time that you leave, or will you, I mean, see how I'm saying, but will you, I would love it. I'm enlivened by you, you know, drawing yourself to the depths of your lingam when you know that your mind has pulled you out. Things like that. Like you devote to times when you can feel each other. Um, you really need a man. You really need a lingam. You really need a man who's connected to a lingam that prioritizes this ability. How that came for me is I realized that unless I was participating in those behaviors with myself, then the man was not going to appear that could do that. Because it had to be like if a man left me on a date, I would go and be with my own yoni. You know, I would rather be, I mean, that's the only thing that gives me fulfillment. Everything else is less shiny. I mean, everything else shines up as a result of that.
Well, everything else feels like a sham, like it's not real. That's how I feel all the time now since I've been doing this work with you is things are just not real the way that I used to think that they were.
I don't know how people manage, actually. I don't know how women in particular, I'm talking about women in particular as well. I mean, I don't know how men manage. I'm not a man, never proclaimed to be one. I'm always interested in their experience in terms of energetic experience, like what they've, but I don't know how women would manage without having a feeling of wholeness in their yoni. And so many walk around without that.
Well, that's the really mysterious part of it is you could live your whole life and many, many lifetimes just not even knowing that it exists. Like that's how I lived for most of my life. I didn't know that I had a yoni, you know? I mean, yeah, I thought that I had one. And that's the difference between the real and the unreal is you only think things exist.
Yeah, this is very different because you can constantly land in there. You constantly arrive.
Not only that, but you see how it creates the things that you thought existed.
Yeah, it's the originating piece of everything, you know. I mean, when you look at couples and they're talking about date nights, that's so far removed from,
I had a conversation with a few friends today, and they were talking about, oh, a heart connection. Oh, I talked to, it's with my coworkers. We talk about this, and I kind of just said it's actually just about the penis. Like that's what women are attracted, like that's what calls a woman to you. It's your penis. Because people think it's all about, oh, this emotional connection, and we talk about, I don't know, video games, and we both love the same exact video game, and I don't know, whatever, we both love the exact same movies or something, and it's like,
oh, yeah.
and I've had that type of relationship with a man in the past where it was about common interest, and that's what you think it's about, and there's a whole world underneath it that you have no idea exists.
Mm. What do people get from common interest? I don't remember.
Well, that's what's interesting is they call it a heart connection.
We sound like we sound like two aliens. Like, oh, they call it a heart. That's what's interesting. They call it a heart connection. I'm like, what is a heart connection? Remember?
They say they have these hearts right here. And they-
Yeah, exactly.
And then if one of them someday likes a different movie, all of a sudden the heart connection is over. It's over.
Oh, yeah. How strange. Don't they know that they're always connected with the yoni and the linga? You know?
No, they don't. I haven't heard them say that.
I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah. And don't they know that they can get such incredible sensations between them and they can know that what the other is feeling on a sensation in a sensation based way, like not in an interpretive way, but they'll actually be able to move the sensation in the same way in each other's bodies at the same time.
No, they're not aware of this. They don't allow themselves to be, and when I say they, I mean I know this because that's me. I've done this.
Mm,
Uh,
Hmm. I'm pretending to be an alien from another planet, so
I,
that's all I'm
I know,
doing.
I know.
That's why I'm using the words they.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying,
Mm.
in the case the aliens watching this get confused or they get their feelings hurt. Um,
You look at us going, don't they know something? Yeah.
but no, most of us are not allowed to know that there's a world of sensation. We don't allow it, and the men in our lives don't allow it. And we have such allegiance to maintaining this facade that we'll never risk it all to know what's really there.
Yeah, allegiance to maintaining this charade, which, in the Australian, I think it's charade. Yeah, so that's what blows my mind. A whole race of people have somehow managed to exalt a false experience of their own systems.